Welcome back to Combat Radius, everyone, and today we are going to be starting a second campaign. Previously, we were flying as Da Minju for the North Korean Air Force, and today we're going to be starting a United Nations campaign as a F-51 pilot. Hopefully this way we'll be able to get a lot more ground attack in, and we have two options here for airfields. We have Suwon and Cheongju. Actually, funnily enough, last weekend I visited Cheongju, so that's nice that they have the airfields here. But since we are in a prop plane, I would prefer to be a little closer to the front. So we're going to choose Suwon as the 12th Fighter Bomber Squadron. Now, here we are for our pilots. Now, just like the North Korean campaign, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an Easter egg for this one. We're going to name him Jeff McDurf. Now, this is a really old Easter egg for anyone who is part of the IL-2 community. I'm sure there's going to be a few of you guys out there who are going to know this. Most of you guys, it's going to go over your head because this is a rather old reference. Let's see, what do we got for pictures here? Maybe let's get somebody with some good hair. I see, and maybe, I think he'll do. The date seems fine, and as far as the bio, I think we're going to go with Polish Eagle. I believe I read the Emigrant Son one earlier. I think we'll go with this one. And the skills is pretty well balanced. We get 2 to skills, 1 to discipline, 1 to courage. And I will scroll through the bio here just in case anyone wants to read this. This one's actually pretty interesting. And it also has a little bit of backstory about World War II. All right, so we're going to click Create, and we'll start our campaign as Major Jeff McDurf. Here we go. All right, April 2nd, and we're going to be starting at the same time period as the North Korean campaign. We have the Daily Planet here, as I believe this is Operation what again? Operation Rugged. Yes, so I will go back to the news here. I'll scroll through this in case anyone wants to read this one. There we go. All right. And we have quite a lot of planes, actually. We're only missing 4 in Black Flight here. And I think right away we'll start getting into our missions. Now, for the F-51, we're going to have lots of ground pounding, all the good stuff. But starting off, I think we're going to go for this close air support over here in the southwest. One, because it's a rather short flight, so we can get there pretty quickly. And 2, it's past the front line, it's close air support, and it's way close to Kimpo for my liking. So I think the first thing we should do is make sure that this airfield here in Seoul is safe, and then we can start worrying more about the rest of the front. So, are these both close air support? They are. And artillery. We'll go with the close air support first. Making sure that our lines don't get broken is the biggest priority. Once we clear this up, then we could probably hit the artillery. And we're also within our own lines, so it is relatively safe for us. Now we're going to have 12 pilots, assign automatically. And actually... Oh, okay, so yes, we're going to go back here. Someone in the last mission told me that I don't have to select pilots by section or individually. I can also select flights or entire squadrons, which is nice. The squadron button's probably not going to be too helpful for the United Nations campaign, but they'll probably be more helpful for the North Korean campaign. So we'll deselect yellow flight. So we'll have red, blue, and green flight. White flight will be on duty just in case there's any sort of emergency. Yellow flight will take a chill pill. All right. And let's see, as far as fuel goes, we'll take the gun sights, rear view mirror, and the radar. Why not? We don't have the 150 grade fuel. I'm wondering when we get that. That's interesting. And ordnance. Actually, how far is the flight? Round trip is 62 miles. Oh, we are golden. We do not need that much fuel. So I think anything less than 50 is a little not enough. So we'll whenever we have a short mission, we'll just go with 50. We'll select the equipment again and the payloads. I think today we'll just go with the typical 200 500-pound bomb, or sorry, 2 500-pound bombs, and then the 6 Haver rockets. And the ammo is good, and I think we are ready to go. So I will see all of you guys in the air. Here we are on the runway at Suwon Airfield. Now let's see, looking back you can see our squadron, or I don't know if you can really see them all that well with the glare, but we'll drop our flaps down to 10%. Normally you don't need that, but 10% is what you would set it for short takeoff and landing, and just because we're heavy with bombs and rockets, I want to have those down just to be safe. So we'll start making our way down the runway here, and I believe at around 110, 120 miles an hour, we can slowly start to lift up. She's a little bit bumpy. I do like how the runways in Korea are not perfectly flat and level. They're much more realistic than they were in Great Battles. But there we are airborne, so we'll start bringing up our landing gear, and we'll wait until we are at least 1,000 feet above the ground before we start bringing up the flaps, because it'll dip the nose, and that could cause us to crash. Now, we have a very short flight today, so I thought I could talk a little bit about the F-51. I actually like this thing a lot more than the Yak. It's very, very nice to fly, but it does have a few more controls that you have to manage. So you can see this red knob down here, that's going to be the mixture. We're going to set that to run, and now we're going to set the RPM. So we're going to be climbing here. So I'm going to see if I can get that to around 2,700. That should be good. Now, for the manifold pressure, I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly it should be for climb on the F-51, but I know for the P-47 it should be set to 54 millimeters, so we'll do the same here. I don't think it should be any issue for this aircraft, and we're definitely over 1,000 feet now, so we'll bring up those flaps. And one of the biggest things that I love about the F-51 over the Yak is just how stable this thing flies. So turn off the lights there, and we'll start to trim her out. So I'm actually holding the stick slightly forward a little bit here. She does want to climb. So if we trim the aircraft, you can see one wheel down here that's vertical. That's going to be for the pitch. So, oh, okay, a little, maybe not enough. We'll turn that wheel until the nose is nice and straight. And next to that, there's going to be another wheel that's horizontal. You can see a little gauge in front of it with a needle that goes left and right. That is for the rudder. So if I remember correctly, all 3 control surfaces on this aircraft do have trim. And so now that everything is trimmed out, I can just keep my hands off the stick. So right now, I'm flying completely hands-free, and all I have to do is maybe if I see it kind of twist a little bit due to P-factor, just give it a hair of rudder, and it should be fine. And it's so much more convenient compared to the Yak. Now, I think we're getting a little off course here, so we'll turn a little bit, staying along the coastline here. Honestly, there's really no way that we can get lost. All we have to do is follow the coastline up here to the little peninsula to the north of Incheon, and we'll see the fighting there. Speaking of ground attack, I can show you guys how to set up the gun sight for dropping bombs and rockets. So if we look at the gun sight here, there's going to be this knob on the top. If I can find the controls for it on my Hotus. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, okay, so this is actually for the wingspan of the target. We're not going to need that for ground attack, but we'll set that to 32, just in case we find any fighters. This knob here on the bottom left is the range. We'll set that to 200, which is the minimum. And this one on the top is the depression. So you can see when I rotate this, the gun sight actually goes down. Now for the F-51 doing ground attack anywhere between 0 and 40 degrees in our dive, we want to set that to 42 mils. And the reason we set it up that way is we can actually use the gyro to aim the rockets. So we're going to start throttling down here, and oop, I accidentally lowered our RPMs too. So if we want to go to max cruise, which is the most fuel efficient setting, we're going to want to set the RPMs to about 24,000. And we want the manifold pressure to be at 34. There's actually a plaque here on the right side if you forget any of the settings for the engine. Very convenient. And we are approaching our target altitude of around 7,500. It looks like our whole squadron is here. And maybe some escorts there at the top. Huh, I didn't remember seeing that in the briefing. But if we look over to our left side here, you can actually see Incheon City, which when I first saw this in game, I thought it was actually pretty cool because I live somewhat close to Incheon in Korea, and it looks completely different than what it looks like now. Of course, after the Korean War, Korea modernized quite a bit. Not only that, but they did a lot of land reclamation around the Han River and around this area, so the landscape looks completely different. In fact, if you see that island just off the tip of Incheon, that is where the international airport is. So if any of you guys love to travel, if you ever visit Seoul, that is the place where you're most likely to be coming in from. You might have also seen me do some missions out of Gimpo Airport, which I believe is K-14 in-game. But anyway, that is still an airport in modern days. The only difference is I believe it primarily focuses on domestic or short-range flights. So for Gimpo, you might go down to Jeju Island, you might go to China or Japan. 99% of all the international flights are going to be coming out of the Incheon Airport. Actually, I do find it kind of strange living in essentially the area where this takes place because, you know, I can look down and I can actually see landmarks that I've been to recently. So I remember there was one flight where I was with somebody on the multiplayer server flying some MiGs, and there was really, really thick cloud cover, so we couldn't really see the ground or a lot of the terrain, and the navigation in this game is significantly harder than Great Battles because it's all these little tiny rivers and mountains. But I see a little gap in the clouds and I see a mountain, and I'm like, I know where we are because I know that mountain. I just hiked it last week. And we ended up finding Bukhansan, which is a little bit north of Seoul, pretty close to the modern day border. Or I wouldn't say it's super close to the modern day border, but anyway, it's a mountain north of Seoul, and we were able to use that to find the city of Seoul itself and make our way towards Gimpo Airfield. So, I don't know, something I just thought that was funny. Just flying over a lot of areas like Gangnam, the Gangnam area in Seoul, it's just completely gone in this game. It's just, there's nothing there. It wasn't really developed yet. And it's just interesting to look at all the differences between modern-day Korea and Korea in 1950. Another cool example is the Government General Building in front of Gyeongbokgung Palace that was built by the Japanese during the colonial period, where if you fly over Seoul, you can still see it, whereas these days it's no longer there as it was torn down in, I believe, 1996? If I can, I'll post a picture of it here for you guys. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the mission. I see down to our 2 o'clock we have a mountain there what looks to be our radar station. So hopefully we'll get any callouts if there are any enemy fighters. We just got word from the ground control that there is an enemy mortar position that they want us to hit. I believe they said they're going to be marking red smoke, and yep, okay, I can see it. There's a little tiny bit of red smoke down there. It's kind of far away, so I'm not sure if you guys can quite pick it up in the video. So I'm going to tell my squad to do as I do, so hopefully we can make this pretty quick. I don't know what exactly there is going to be for AA down there, or, you know, if there's going to be patrols in the area, so I just want to make 1-2 passes and we're out. We are approaching our wing over point, and so for this first run, we're going to drop both of the 500-pound bombs together. I'm seeing a little stuff down there kind of scattered around, but I'm seeing one big building, or maybe this is some sort of machine gun bunker or headquarter. I don't know what it is exactly, but it looks like a big target, so we're going to go for that first. And we're at our wing over point right about now. As soon as the red smoke touches the front edge of our wing, we'll start our dive. Now, we did lower the gun sight by 42 mils, but for bombs, that's not going to change our point of aim. We're going to point the paper right at the target, and as we approach 3,000 feet, we'll start to pull up, and anywhere between 3,000 and 1,500, we'll release when the bomb goes just under our nose. I'm going to tell my squad to follow me one more time, just in case. And we're getting a little closer. Really focusing on the gun sight here, so I'm going to just eyeball the distance if I can. And pickle! I think that was good. We have plenty of distance in between us and the ground, so that keeps us a little safer from ground fire. We're nice and fast, and look at that beautiful hit. I think we might have actually gotten a direct hit on the bunker there. Ooh, okay, and we got a secondary explosion. Perfect. Maybe it was housing ammo for the mortars. I'm sure whoever was in there is having a bad day today, seeing those 500-pounders fly through the roof. And we got some AA down there, which is concerning me a little bit. So we're going to fire these rockets off quick and get out of here before we lose anyone. And so now we get to do the fun bit, where we use the gyroscopic gun sight for the rockets. Now, the sight has two settings, caged and uncaged. When we're using the guns, we have it set to the uncaged position, so the reticle can move around a lot. But for rockets, we have it to caged, I believe. But for now, we're going to keep it on the gun position while we make our big maneuver, so it doesn't go haywire. And once we straighten out, we'll cage it, we'll set it to the rocket position, and we're going to hold the center pipper on the target, and the gun sight should settle down. We're going to hold it for 3 seconds, fire up all the rockets in sequence, and boom, look at that, beautiful. And look how high up above the ground we are, so if you're ever attacking an objective that has a lot of AA, you can get a really nice standoff distance, and at this distance, the rockets will spread too. There was a secondary explosion, so it looks like we hit another ammo cache, and I'm seeing 2 MiGs off to our 10 o'clock, pretty far out. So I'm going to tell the rest of the squad to start making a beeline back to the airfield. I'm going to reset my gun sight in case we need to do some air-to-air shooting, but I think we will start making our way out of here too. Alright, we made our way back towards the airfield. The objective that we hit was pretty close to the front line, so once we crossed back into friendly lines, they did not bother to chase us at all, so we got out of there just in time. Now, the P-51, when I was first learning to fly this thing, I had a really bad time with the landings because I was so used to the really light fighters like the Yak or especially the Me-109s. Even with the narrow landing gear, I always felt those things were pretty easy to land just because they were just so light and so nimble. It felt very forgiving. And then you go over to the American aircraft like the P-51 or the P-47, and these things are bricks. If you don't land them absolutely perfectly, they will try to kill you. Luckily, at the time, when I first started learning the American aircraft, I met a pilot who was actually a pilot in real life. And so he showed me the ropes on the process for landing these aircraft. And that saved me a lot of headaches. So we're coming onto our final here. We come in at around 1,000 feet. We already have the flaps set to 20 degrees, so we can start putting them down all the way. And our landing gear as well. RPMs we have set to 2,700, and our glide slope is around 130 to 150 miles an hour indicated. Now, on the weather report, we're actually flying into the wind, so this should make our landing a little easier. And we should be touching down anywhere at around 110 to 130, if I remember correctly. We're going to aim for about the middle of that. It's always better to be on the higher side just for safety, but of course not too high. You don't want to be hitting the runway at 200 miles an hour. She is dropping a little fast though, so I'm going to give her a little more power and keep the nose a little higher than I would at this point. We did drop quite a bit of altitude already. We're recovering nicely, and the wind isn't perfectly going down the runway. It's slightly in a crosswind, so you can see our nose is canted off to the side, but not too bad, very manageable. I can just give it a little bit of rudder. And we're going to be approaching our touchdown point here. I'm going to aim for a little further just because I do see some aircraft here at the end of the runway. But now we're good, and now we can just touch down at any point. So we'll drop down to about 110 miles an hour, flare up a little bit, and... Are we on the ground? Oh, okay, there we go. Wow, that was a smooth landing. I'm not sure what it looks like for you guys in the video, but it was very hard for me to tell that we had already touched the ground. Very nice, and we'll start to throttle back down, put on the brakes, and I will see you guys in the headquarters. Welcome back to the headquarters, everyone. We just successfully completed our close air support mission just outside of K-14 Kimpo Airfield. And we got 6 request points for resources. However, I didn't know this at the time, but we ended up taking some losses. We ended up losing 2 aircraft here, and we lost one of our pilots, Trujillo, Cesar Trujillo. And our second pilot here, Doyle D'Alessio, I guess he bailed out. He's not wounded, but he'll be back in a day. So at the time, I had no clue what was happening. I didn't hear anyone got engaged by the MiG, so I was very confused by this when I first saw it in the menu here. So I went back into the replay, and it turns out that these 2 guys crashed into each other. I was really hoping that we were going to go our first few missions without taking any major losses, but just like our Yak campaign, on the very first mission, we end up losing our very first pilot. Very unfortunate. But other than that, everyone else did a very good job. Now, For that close air support mission, the target was actually rather small. So I'm thinking for these real safe missions where we're attacking objectives on our side of the line, like these close air support ones, I think we can get away with doing smaller wings of maybe 4 or maybe 8 aircraft. And we'll probably only start using the big ones when we start going further behind enemy lines and we need to hit larger objectives. Like hitting the armored column here, that is probably something we'd want a lot more aircraft for. Let's see, what else? Vehicle columns. You might be able to get away with a smaller flight, but airfield attack. Definitely we would want a lot of aircraft for that. But regardless, if we go for these little itty-bitty close air support ones, I think a flight of 4 is more than enough for that. But anyway, moving on, I believe our aircraft is fine. Yeah, so we can fly the next one. We'll get ready for the next mission. So this went pretty well. This one is also a close air support. Close air support. Is there anything that isn't close air support that is on our lines? I don't think so. Attack front line. I'm curious what these are like. So close air support is everywhere where we're getting attacked. Part of me really wants to do these missions, but I don't want to do 2 close air supports together on the same day. So I think... Ooh, attack armored column. That looks important. I think we'll go for this one. And so we'll assign red flight. Actually, let's move around our pilots a little bit here. We will move you to the reserve. Nope. How do I do this? Let's see. I will just deactivate you for now. And you can move over to section 4. There we go. So we will attack an armored column. We'll have all of red flight, all of blue flight, and let's have yellow flight. And now for armament. Let's see, what do we have? We're going to use the gun sight for aiming the rockets. I actually turned off the tail warning radar in the last mission. I know in the briefing I said I enabled it, but I turned it off just before running the mission when I put on my headset and everything, because I know this would drive you guys crazy, constantly hearing this all the time. The wingmen formed up with us would probably set it off. But we will have the rear view mirror. Now, look at all this. We have so many things we can use here. Cluster munitions, I believe these are all fragmentations. Napalm, probably not the best for the tanks. The 1,000-pounders, we could use those. Those are pretty beefy, though, but I believe some of these rockets are semi-armor piercing. Ooh, actually, let's see these. I've never actually used the rockets in anti-tank configurations before, but I believe the ATAR rockets here are the ones we're going to want for that. Yeah, these are the heat rockets. Let's see. Does it tell me how much these can penetrate? 610 millimeters. Oh, my God. Okay, yeah, these are our buddies. Let's see, how many of these can we get? We can get some drop tanks. We don't need those. I know with the Haver rockets, you can take up to 10. Yeah, there we go, 10. That's what I want. 10 ATAR rockets. Now, the problem with this, though, is if we do this, we're going to be over the target for a long time. So is it worth taking the rockets and being able to do tons and tons of damage? Or do we just take 1,000-pound bombs and just, you know, blast the whole column in one run? I think we're going to take the ATAR rockets just for funsies. Or we'll take a small flight. I'm going to take 6 of the ATAR rockets, and we're going to take a small flight instead of the 12. We're going to redo this here. How do I... There we go. I'm going to take just flight 1. Just flight 1. We'll try that. We're going to take just flight 1, and we're going to hit these guys fast, but we're going to use the ATAR rockets. Just because I've never used these before, I'm very interested in them. I've never actually used them for killing tanks before. So we'll go with the 10 ATAR rockets just with a flight of 4. And 50% fuel. All right. That looks good. So, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's mission. In the next video, we will be attacking this armored column with the ATAR rockets. I hope to see you there, and signing off.